Look, if there's one thing you need to know about the Galactic Union medical frigate Serenity's Promise, it's that the name is wildly optimistic. The ship was about as serene as a cafeteria food fight, and the only promise it kept was that something would definitely go wrong on any given shift. Dr. Venn was having what he considered a perfectly reasonable breakdown in the medical bay. His eye stalks were twitching in 7 different directions, which for a Quelthian meant he was either extremely stressed or trying to read multiple clipboards at once. Today, it was both. "Nurse Kip," he chittered, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Please tell me the supply requisition forms have been filed in triplicate." Kip, who resembled nothing so much as a lavender-colored blob with the personality of a disappointed parent, didn't even look up from their datapad. No. 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 Dr. Venn's eye stalks drooped. "But protocol states that all supply requisitions must be—" "Dr. Venn," Kip interrupted, their gelatinous form rippling with what might have been a sigh. "We've been through this. I'm not filing anything in triplicate when duplicate is fine. We've had this conversation 47 times. 48, Venn corrected miserably. That's when the distress call came through, which really should have been everyone's first clue that the day was about to get significantly worse. Captain Thrells's voice crackled over the intercom, sharp and irritated as always. The Avixen had the disposition of someone who'd been dealing with idiots for 3 decades and had exactly 0 patience left in reserve. "Medical Bay, we've got incoming. Human mercenary vessel took heavy fire. 1 critically wounded." Dr. Venn's eye stalks perked up. Humans were easy. Fragile Class 5 organisms, very straightforward. "Understood, Captain. Preparing Bay for human physiology. Standard trauma protocols." "Great," Thrells replied, already sounding bored. "Try not to let this one die before we get there. The paperwork is murder." 3 minutes later, they brought Marcus Webb in on a stretcher, and Dr. Venn immediately wished he'd called in sick. The human had a wound in his chest approximately the size of a dinner plate. You could see things that should not be visible from the outside. Dr. Venn consulted his medical database, which helpfully informed him that this injury had a survival rate of 0%, with a margin of error of also 0%. "Oh dear," Dr. Venn whispered, all 8 of his eye stalks focused on the wound. "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear." Marcus, who was still conscious for some reason, turned his head slightly. "Hey, Doc. How long until you patch me up? I've got a shift in like 4 hours." Dr. Venn's eye stalks went rigid. "I'm sorry, what?" "The wound. How long to fix it?" Kip oozed over to the bedside and looked down at Marcus with their approximation of eyes. "You're not supposed to be talking." "Why not?" "Because you're dead," Dr. Venn said, his voice climbing into a register that suggested imminent hysteria. "This wound is fatal. The database is very clear. You should have expired approximately 9 minutes ago." Marcus blinked. "I feel fine. Well, not fine. This hurts like hell, actually. But I'm not dead." "The database says—" "The database," Marcus interrupted, wincing, "can kiss my intact posterior. Can you just fix this? It's really starting to sting." Dr. Venn did what any medical professional would do when faced with an impossible situation. He began preparing the funeral arrangements. "I'm not dead," Marcus said for the 7th time. "Please," Dr. Venn chittered, scrolling through his datapad, "allow me to read you the traditional Quelthian blessing for the departed. It's very soothing. May your chitin shine eternal in the great molting grounds beyond." "I don't have chitin." "And may your mandibles click in harmony with the cosmic symphony." "I don't have mandibles either." Kip oozed between them, rippling with annoyance. "Dr. Venn, I'm scanning him right now. He's not dying." "Impossible. The database clearly states—" "The database," Kip said flatly, "is wrong." Dr. Venn's eye stalks trembled. The database had never been wrong. The database was compiled from 10,000 years of medical knowledge across 200 species. The database was infallible. The medical AI chose that moment to chime in, its voice synthetic and confused. "Error. Patient vitals indicate simultaneous states of critical failure and normal function. This is medically impossible. Recommend immediate diagnostics or exorcism. Did it just suggest an exorcism? Marcus asked. It's been glitchy lately, Kip admitted. The doors to the medical bay slid open with a pneumatic hiss and Captain Threll strutted in. The Avexan was all feathers and attitude, with a beak that looked sharp enough to cut through diplomatic red tape, which she frequently did. Status report, she demanded. The human is dead but won't stop talking, Dr. Venn reported miserably. I'm not dead. Thrells cocked her head, her avian eyes fixed on Marcus. He looks pretty lively for a corpse. The database says this injury is 100% fatal. Then update the database, Thrells snapped. We're a medical frigate, not a morgue. Do I need to get someone in here who can actually do their job? Dr. Venn's eye stalks drooped so low they nearly touched the floor. No, Captain, I just need to understand how he's still alive. Great question, Marcus interjected. I'd also like to understand why no one's actually treating me yet. And when's lunch? I missed lunch. Everyone stopped and stared at him. You're concerned about lunch, Kip said slowly. I'm starving. Got shot right before mess call. Do you know how hard it is to maintain muscle mass on a calorie deficit? The medical AI spoke again. Error. Patient prioritizing nutritional intake over catastrophic tissue damage. This behavior does not match any known survival instinct patterns. Recommend psychiatric evaluation. There's nothing wrong with my brain. Debatable, Kip muttered. Dr. Venn was cycling through his entire medical education in his head, trying to find something, anything that would explain this. He'd studied for 30 years. He'd graduated top of his class. He'd performed surgery on 16 different species types. And now a human with a hole in his chest was asking about the lunch menu. Perhaps, Dr. Venn said weakly, human physiology is more resilient than documented? You think? Marcus said, his sarcasm crystal clear, despite the pain he was clearly in. Thrells ruffled her feathers impatiently. Kip, can you fix him or not? Kip examined Marcus with what passed for a critical eye. Probably, if Dr. Venn would stop reading funeral rites and actually let me work. But the protocol states... Dr. Venn, Thrells said, her voice dropping to a dangerous register. If you mention protocol one more time, I'm going to file you under cargo and jettison you at the next station. Dr. Venn's eye stalks quivered. Yes, Captain. Good. Now fix the human so he can get his lunch and I can get back to my ship. I have a meeting in an hour and I'm already annoyed. As Thrells left, her talons clicking on the metal floor, Marcus tried to sit up slightly. So are we doing this, or am I going to have to perform self-surgery? Because I've done that before and it's really not ideal. All of Dr. Venn's eye stalks focused on Marcus at once. You've performed surgery on yourself? Long story. Involved a mining accident and a very limited first aid kit. I wouldn't recommend it. Dr. Venn felt his entire understanding of medicine crumbling around him like a sandcastle in a tsunami. This was going to be a very long day. All right, Dr. Venn said, his voice only slightly hysterical. If we're going to treat you, I need to consult the medical protocols for chest trauma in humans. He pulled up the database. The entry was disappointingly short. Treatment protocol for fatal chest wounds, he read aloud, is to make the patient comfortable and notify next of kin. That's not a treatment protocol, Kip observed. That's giving up. The database has never encountered a human surviving this injury. Marcus groaned. Look, I'm going to level with you. This isn't even in my top 5 worst injuries. Dr. Venn's eye stalks curled in distress. What could possibly be worse than this? Well, there was the time I got spaced for 45 seconds. That was unpleasant. And the incident with the plasma torch. Oh, and I once got electrocuted so bad my heart stopped for 3 minutes. Your heart stopped? Yeah, my buddy Jake had to restart it. Used a defibrillator from a cargo hauler, worked fine. Kip rippled in what might have been respect. Humans are insane. We prefer resilient, Marcus corrected. Dr. Venn began pulling up every medication in the database approved for human use. The list was depressingly short and came with warnings like, may cause mild discomfort, and not recommended for serious injuries. He administered a standard pain medication, Marcus blinked. Did you just give me something? Yes, a Class 3 analgesic. You should be feeling significant relief. I don't feel anything. Dr. Venn checked the dosage. He'd given Marcus enough to sedate a Thorian battle ox. That's impossible. Maybe try a higher dose? I gave you the maximum safe dosage. Then try the maximum unsafe dosage, Marcus suggested. I'm not really worried about side effects right now, Doc. Kip oozed over with a container of synthetic tissue regenerator, the kind used for minor lacerations. What if we just start with basics? That's not going to work on a wound this severe, Dr. Venn protested. Got a better idea? Dr. Venn did not have a better idea. In desperation, he opened a communication channel to the Galactic Medical Council. A holographic Zenthari appeared, all tentacles and intellectual superiority. Dr. Venn, the counselor said smoothly, to what do we owe this consultation? I have a human patient with a fatal chest wound who refuses to die and is asking about lunch. There was a long pause. Could you repeat that? Dr. Venn did, adding more details about Marcus's condition and impossible vitals. The counselor's tentacles twitched thoughtfully. Humans aren't supposed to survive that. Our data is quite clear. Yes, I'm aware. That's why I'm calling. Have you considered that your scanners might be malfunctioning? The scanners are fine. Then I'm afraid you're experiencing a medical anomaly. Document everything. We'll want to study this for future reference. Good luck. The hologram winked out. Did the Galactic Medical Council just tell you to figure it out yourself? Marcus asked. Essentially, yes. Great. Super helpful. Hey, you got a stapler? Dr. Venn's eye stalks twisted in confusion. A stapler? For documents? No, for this. Marcus gestured at his chest. Just staple the wound shut. It'll hold until the tissue regenerates. That's barbaric. That's practical. Kip, who had apparently had enough of this conversation, simply started applying the synthetic tissue regenerator directly to Marcus's wound. They worked with efficient, no-nonsense movements, ignoring Dr. Venn's protests about proper procedure. And it worked. The tissue began knitting together slowly but visibly. Marcus's vitals, which had been doing impossible things according to the monitors, started stabilizing into something that looked almost normal. Huh, Kip said. That actually worked. Of course it worked, Marcus said. Humans are built sturdy. We're like the cockroaches of the mammal world. I don't think that's the compliment you think it is, Kip observed. Dr. Venn stared at his patient, at the healing wound, at his entire career as a medical professional. This violates everything I know about biology. Maybe you need to learn new things, Marcus suggested. Speaking of which, is anyone going to address my lunch situation? Because I'm pretty sure low blood sugar isn't helping my healing process. Against all medical advice, better judgment, and the fundamental laws of biology as Dr. Venn understood them, Marcus Webb stood up from the medical bed 20 minutes later. I really don't think you should be mobile, Dr. Venn chittered nervously, following Marcus like an anxious mother hen. If mother hens had 8 eye stalks and an obsession with protocol. I'm fine. Little wobbly, but fine. You have a partially regenerated chest wound. Had worse. They made their way to the cafeteria, and Marcus's entrance caused the kind of reaction usually reserved for ghost sightings or surprise health inspections. A Quelthian junior medic saw Marcus and immediately fainted. A Floxarian orderly oozed backward so fast they left a trail. Someone dropped an entire tray of food that clattered across the floor with impressive volume. Is that the dead guy? Someone whispered. He's walking. Call Captain Thrells. Marcus ignored all of this and headed straight for the food dispensers. He began loading up a tray with an alarming variety of items. Protein bars from the Thorian section, fruit from the Zenthari display, something that looked like it might be synthetic meat from the general supplies, a container of what was definitely Avexin grain mash. You can't eat that, a terrified cafeteria worker squeaked, pointing at the grain mash. That's toxic to most species. Good thing I'm human, then. Marcus added 3 more containers to his tray. Dr. Venn was taking frantic notes on his data pad, his eye stalks swiveling between Marcus and his increasingly alarming food selections. This is fascinating. The human appears to have a death wish extending to his nutritional choices. It's called an iron stomach, Doc. Humans don't have iron stomachs. You have hydrochloric acid and relatively weak digestive enzymes compared to... It's a figure of speech. The cafeteria doors slid open again, and another human walked in. This one was tall, built like he wrestled cargo containers for fun, and completely unsurprised by the scene before him. "There you are, Marcus," the newcomer said casually. "Heard you got shot." "Hey, Jenkins, yeah, took one to the chest. Medical bay's all worked up about it." Jenkins nodded sympathetically. "They always are. Remember when Thompson got impaled by that loading crane? The one that went clean through his abdomen? That's the one. Medical staff on that station lost their minds, kept insisting he was dead while he argued with them about it." Dr. Ven's eye stalks went rigid. "I'm sorry, impaled clean through?" "Yeah," Jenkins said, grabbing his own food tray. "Missed all the important bits, though. Thompson was back to work in 3 days." 3 days? Well, light duty. Couldn't lift anything heavy for a week. A crowd was gathering now. Medical staff and crew members alike, all staring at the two humans with a mixture of horror and morbid fascination. Captain Thrells pushed through the crowd, her feathers ruffled with annoyance. "What's going on here? I heard there was a panic." "No panic," Marcus said around a mouthful of food. "Just having lunch." "He was dead an hour ago," someone in the crowd shouted. "I was never dead." Thrells fixed Jenkins with her sharp avian stare. "You're human, explain this." Jenkins shrugged, selecting something that looked like it might be pasta. "Not much to explain, Captain. Humans are tough. We've got redundant systems, high pain tolerance, and a stubborn refusal to die when it's inconvenient. Marcus's wound looked bad, sure, but it's really not that serious." "Not that serious?" Dr. Ven's voice hit a pitch that suggested his species could scream in ultrasonic frequencies. "He had a sucking chest wound." "Had being the operative word," Marcus pointed out. "Kip patched me up fine." "Yeah," Jenkins added, sitting down at a table with his tray. "One time my cousin got shot in the head." The entire cafeteria went silent. "The bullet bounced off his skull," Jenkins continued calmly. "Gave him a nasty concussion and a wicked scar, but he was fine. Human skulls are surprisingly thick." "That's horrifying," someone whispered. "That's evolution, baby," Jenkins replied cheerfully. Dr. Venn sat down heavily, which was difficult when you had an insectoid body structure, but he managed. "I need to completely reevaluate everything I know about human medicine." "Probably," Marcus agreed. "You guys have been treating us like we're made of glass." "Because the database says you're fragile." "The database," Jenkins said, spearing something on his fork, "is wrong." 2 hours later, the main conference room was packed. Dr. Venn had sent out a mandatory notice to all medical staff, and Captain Thrells had decided the crew needed to attend as well, because in her words, if we're going to be transporting humans regularly, everyone needs to understand what we're dealing with. Marcus and Jenkins stood at the front of the room, looking distinctly uncomfortable with their new roles as educational speakers. "Right," Marcus said, clearing his throat. "So, humans, we're a bit different from what your database says." "A bit?" Dr. Venn chittered from the front row. "You survived a fatal wound and asked for lunch." "Yeah, about that. Humans have this thing called adrenaline. It's basically a chemical our bodies produce when we're stressed or injured. Makes us stronger, faster, and significantly less concerned with minor details like pain or imminent death." A Zenthari in the third row raised a tentacle. "You produce your own combat stimulants?" "Naturally, yeah." "That's cheating," someone muttered. Jenkins took over. "We've also got a pretty high pain tolerance, what might completely incapacitate other species we can usually work through. Not comfortable, but doable." "Define work through," Captain Thrells said from where she was perched in the back. "Well, there are documented cases of humans walking on broken legs, working with fractured ribs, and continuing to fight after losing significant amounts of blood." The room erupted in alarmed chittering, whistling, and one species-specific sound that approximated a horrified screech. "That's not normal," Dr. Venn protested. "For us it is," Marcus said. Also, we've got redundant systems. We can lose a kidney, part of our liver, our appendix, our spleen, and still function normally. What's an appendix? Someone asked. Great question. We don't actually know what it does. We think it's left over from evolution. You can remove it entirely and we're fine. Dr. Venn was typing frantically on his datapad. Your species has vestigial organs that serve no purpose. We've got several. Wisdom teeth, for example. Third set of molars that don't fit in our mouths and usually have to be surgically removed. Why would evolution give you teeth that don't fit? Nobody knows. It's a mystery, like most of human biology, honestly. Jenkins pulled up a holographic display showing human anatomy. Here's another fun one. Humans can enter a state called shock, where our bodies basically shut down non-essential functions to keep us alive. Blood pressure drops, consciousness fades, but critical systems keep running. We can survive in that state for hours if necessary. That sounds like dying, Kip observed from their spot near the wall. It's like dying's waiting room, Marcus explained. Sometimes we get better, sometimes we don't. It's a gamble. A junior medic raised their hand nervously. What about human reproduction? Is that as horrifying as everything else? Marcus and Jenkins exchanged glances. You want to tell them or should I? Jenkins asked. You do it. I don't think I can say it with a straight face. Jenkins turned back to the audience. Human gestation takes 9 months. The infant grows inside the mother's body, taking nutrients directly from her bloodstream. This process can cause nausea, fatigue, organ displacement, and significant pain. That doesn't sound too different from other species, Dr. Venn said cautiously. I'm not finished. The birth process involves the infant, which has a head approximately 10 centimeters in diameter, passing through a birth canal that's significantly smaller. This can take hours, sometimes days. The mother's body produces hormones so powerful that most human females don't fully remember the pain afterward, which is probably the only reason the species hasn't gone extinct. The room was dead silent. Sometimes, Jenkins continued relentlessly, the infant doesn't fit, and human medical professionals have to cut the mother open to extract it surgically. The mother survives this, usually. That's the most terrifying thing I've ever heard, Captain Threll said flatly. And yet humans remain one of the most successful species in the galaxy, Marcus added. We're like biological cockroaches. Very hard to kill, adaptable, and we thrive in environments that would destroy other species. Dr. Venn stood up, his eye stalks waving frantically. The database classifies humans as fragile Class 5 organisms. This is completely inaccurate. Yeah, we've been meaning to mention that, Jenkins said. Whoever did your initial assessment probably met some humans who were being polite and didn't want to alarm anyone. Or they met humans in a safe environment and didn't see what we're capable of when things go wrong, Marcus suggested. Kip rippled thoughtfully. This explains so much. I've been treating humans for decades, and they always seemed fine with procedures that should have been agonizing. I thought they were just being stoic. We are stoic, Marcus said. But also your definition of agonizing and ours might be different. I need to sit down, Dr. Venn said, even though he was already sitting. One more thing, Jenkins added. Humans are social creatures with a strong pack mentality. If you hurt one of us, the others will come looking for you. We're also very good at holding grudges. Is that a threat? Captain Thrells asked, amused. It's a warning, but mostly we're friendly. As long as you feed us regularly and don't try to declare us dead when we're not. Marcus grinned. Yeah, that's kind of a pet peeve. 1 week later, Marcus Webb stood in the medical bay for his final checkout, looking significantly healthier than someone who'd had a massive chest wound 7 days prior. Dr. Venn scanned him thoroughly, his eye stalks examining the readouts with something approaching wonder. The tissue regeneration is complete, there's minimal scarring, this is remarkable. Told you I'd be fine. You told me many things, I didn't believe any of them. I was wrong. Dr. Venn's eye stalks drooped apologetically. I owe you an apology, Marcus. I almost let you die because I trusted my database more than my patient. You didn't almost let me die, Doc. I was never dying. But apology accepted. Kip oozed over with a datapad. Dr. Venn's paper on human resilience has been published in the Galactic Medical Journal. It's causing quite a stir. A stir, Dr. Venn said, his voice climbing, is an understatement. I've received 7,000 messages. Half are thanking me for the information. The other half are accusing me of fabricating data because the results are too absurd to be real. Welcome to working with humans, Marcus said cheerfully. Captain Threll strutted into the medical bay looking as irritated as ever but somehow more satisfied. Webb, you're cleared for departure. Try not to get shot again. The paperwork is still murder even when you don't die. I'll do my best, Captain. Also, Thrells continued, I've updated our medical database and requisitioned human-compatible supplies, including food. Jenkins complained that our cafeteria options were limited. Jenkins complains about everything. He's not wrong, though. If we're going to transport humans regularly, we need to accommodate your bizarre dietary requirements and apparently superhuman durability. Dr. Venn pulled up a holographic display showing the new medical protocols. I've created an entirely new category in our system. Protocol designation HUM-1, informally known as when treating humans, assume nothing is actually fatal until the human stops complaining. Marcus laughed. That's surprisingly accurate. I've also added notes about adrenaline, pain tolerance, redundant organ systems, and the fact that humans can survive approximately 72 hours without water and 3 weeks without food, though they become increasingly irritable. The irritable part is important, Kip added. Low blood sugar makes humans very unpleasant. That's just called being hangry, Marcus explained. It's a technical term. Dr. Venn handed Marcus a small container filled with what looked like good luck charms from at least a dozen different species. The medical staff wanted you to have these, for protection. You guys know I don't actually need magical protection, right? After what we've witnessed, Dr. Venn said seriously, we're not taking any chances. You've traumatized this entire crew. The least we can do is give you some cultural artifacts. Marcus accepted the container, genuinely touched. Thanks, Doc, for everything, even the funeral rites. About those, Dr. Venn chittered nervously. I may have been premature. You think? As Marcus headed for the docking bay, Captain Thrells walked alongside him. Webb off the record? Yeah? Are all humans like you and Jenkins? Marcus considered this. Pretty much. We're a stubborn species. We don't give up easily, we don't die conveniently, and we really don't like being told what we can't do. Terrifying. We prefer inspirational. That's what terrifying species always say. Marcus boarded his ship with a wave, and the Serenity's Promise resumed its route through the sector. The medical bay returned to its normal routine of treating routine injuries and processing entirely reasonable amounts of paperwork. Then, 3 days later, the emergency channel crackled to life. Serenity's Promise. This is cargo hauler Red Dawn. We've got a human crew member with severe burns across 40% of his body. He's asking if we can wait until after dinner to bring him in. Dr. Venn looked at Kip. Kip rippled with what might have been resignation. Tell them we'll prep the medical bay, Dr. Venn said calmly, and to bring the human immediately regardless of his dinner schedule. You want me to get the tissue regenerator? Kip asked. And a sandwich, Dr. Venn added. Definitely get a sandwich. Captain Thrells' voice came over the internal comm. Dr. Venn, please tell me you're not starting another incident. Not starting one, Captain. Just prepared for the inevitable. As the Red Dawn docked and the burned human was brought in, conscious and arguing about missing his meal, Dr. Venn felt something he hadn't expected. Confidence. He knew what to do now. The database had been updated. Protocol HUM-1 was in effect. And most importantly, he'd learned the fundamental truth about treating humans. They were biologically ridiculous, medically improbable, and absolutely, completely, utterly impossible to kill through conventional means. The Galactic Medical Database's classification system had been updated accordingly. Humans were no longer listed as fragile Class 5 organisms. They were now classified as biologically ridiculous Class 1 organisms. Approach with caution and snacks. Dr. Venn pulled up the new protocols, handed Kip the tissue regenerator, and prepared to treat another impossible patient. Somewhere in the cosmos, The Galactic Medical Council was still arguing about whether any of this was real. But on the Serenity's promise, Dr. Venn and his staff knew better. Humans didn't die when they were supposed to. They just asked for lunch and carried on. And honestly, after everything he'd seen, Dr. Venn was starting to find that absolutely, perfectly, wonderfully reasonable.